Hey traders, it's Stephen Brooks, and today we're going to be talking about the difference between trading stocks and trading options. See, one of the big issues that I see in the individual investment and the individual trader community is their decision to either trade or buy or sell stocks, or their decision to trade or buy or sell options is very rarely aligned with what their goals are. So what we're going to do today is we're going to kind of go through what that looks like and how you might be able to decide which of these routes is for you. Now again, this video is potentially more focused on our beginner traders and our beginner investors, those who really have very little experience, but I imagine there's going to be a lot of you who are watching this video who do have a fair amount of experience when it comes to either trading or investing in the markets, and you actually might have this a little bit backwards. So the first thing that you want to do is you want to ask yourself, what is my goal? Why am I actually looking to trade, and why am I actually looking to invest? What is my goal? Now, there are many different goals. Some folks want to make extra income now. They want to supplement their income, or they want to save up to have a big amount of money or a large lump sum when it comes to retirement. Whatever it is, you have to be very honest with yourself, okay? You have to be very, very honest with yourself, and you have to really try to figure out what your goal is. It might not be exactly what you think it is when you actually sit down and are honest with yourself. Now, for me, for my purposes and the folks I work with, we focus specifically on stocks and we focus specifically on options. We don't really deal with futures and we don't really deal with forex because we don't deal with any day trading. So we are stocks and we are options. Now, there are pros and cons to both. And again, the decision of which one of these two might be right for you, again, is all based on whatever your goal is. So with stocks, yes, there is a dividend potential, and that is thumbs up for, again, some of those folks that will kind of talk about what their goals are. Another positive is you can kind of buy and hold some of these stocks for a long time, decades to infinity, if you will, as long as the company is still a publicly traded company, you can do that. It is much more of a hands-off approach, and we'll kind of talk about why that is in a moment. And on top of that, again, it is much more of a long-term approach, and again, we'll talk about that in a moment. On top of that, folks, we also have for options. We have on the positive sides, well, it is very inexpensive to go out there and start trading options compared to stocks, which as we can see is very capital intensive. In some cases, incredibly capital intensive. Options are not. In fact, they are the complete opposite of that. Options are inexpensive. There are some nice tax advantages for options traders that do not require them to own an option for a year like you would have to in a stock situation to get a tax benefit. On top of that, there is much more potential for a substantially higher return on your investment with options compared to stocks. And the reason is because, again, options are way less capital intensive than buying and owning stocks. And then on top of that, options is a little bit more of a shorter term approach. Now, one of the downsides with options is where with stocks, you can kind of buy and hold them forever. With options, all options expire at a certain point. So you can't just buy an option, hold it for 20 years like you would be able to for a stock. So again, deciding between these two, and again, we don't do futures, we don't do forex because I don't like to teach day trading. I don't think it's a real sound strategy for the average person out there. So the idea is, how do we choose between stocks and how do we choose between options? Because reality is both of these scenarios, options and stocks, at least if you are brand new to trading, will probably take less than 1 hour to learn. So the idea that one of these might be more challenging than the other is inaccurate, because learning how to trade stocks and learning how to trade options, both of these take less than 1 hour. So there's no difference in terms of education or barrier of entry. So it all comes back to, again, what is your goal? Now, this is not a recommendation for anyone to go out there and switch everything they're doing. But again, I think this is a reasonable conversation that many of you out there have never even had with yourself. So let's go through this example. Let's say, as an example, you are someone who's looking for more income now. You're looking for more income now. Which of these stocks versus options might give you the best opportunity to get more income now? Well, it sure as heck isn't stocks because, again, they're very, very capital intensive. So your ROI potential is much lower. And as an example, if a stock goes up 5%, then the ROI on your option position is going to go up a substantially higher amount. So if you're someone who's looking for more income now and you are buying and holding stocks, well, maybe that medium, stocks, does not align whatsoever with your goal of having more income. Or maybe you are someone who's looking to just build up their retirement. You're maybe retiring in 10 to 20 years and you're looking to build up your retirement in that time. Well, folks, if you're trading options and you're kind of in and out every single day, well, maybe that might not be the best types of strategies for you because, again, buying and holding, you can get the dividend, you can be much more hands-off, all that fun stuff. So if I can give you kind of a moral of the story today is, some of you folks out there, some of the traders, some of the investors that watch these videos, they've never actually sat down and wrote down on a piece of paper what their investment goal is. Why do they do it? For me, for example, I want extra income now. So for that, it's 10 times out of 10 for me would be options. Why? Well, because it is less capital intensive. I'm in and out of positions in much shorter time, and my ROI potential is substantially higher than just buying and holding a stock and collecting a dividend and blah, 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 getting a 4% return per year. Right? But if I was someone, let's say, who really wanted to just build up my retirement that might happen in 30, 40 years, and I don't really want to spend a lot of time looking at the market, well, then stocks might be much more interesting for me because, again, I can buy and hold them forever, more or less, as long as the company that I bought is still publicly trading. It is a lot more hands-off, and I can get that dividend 4 times a year, assuming that the stocks that I own have that dividend. So again, if I could give anyone just a little bit of a helpful hint today, if you are brand new to trading, before you decide whether to learn how to trade stocks or whether to learn how to trade options, would both take less than 1 hour to do, you need to figure out what your goals are. And then based on those goals, you have to come up with a medium that is much more aligned with what your goal is, and you'll have a much easier and much clearer time, hopefully going ahead and achieving that goal. So if you've never had this conversation with yourself, I recommend to most folks, have that conversation. Ask yourself what your goal is. And then, of course, maybe you are trading stocks, but really you realize that based on your goal, options is the way to go. Or maybe you are trading options right now, but when you really ask yourself about your goal, maybe you're realizing that stocks are the way to go. It's just going to align you and give you much more focus than you otherwise would have. So again, if you haven't had this conversation, I think it would be very helpful for a lot of folks out there to go ahead and have these conversations, and then you'll be able to have much more reasonable expectations about which one of these two mediums might be the best for you.